How's it going, guys? Today we have an episode of WHOIS, and today we have Campbell.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah.
It feels typical to say, but I'm tired.
The classic life of a videographer, I feel like at this point. So do you want to tell us a bit about yourself? Like, what it is you do?
For sure. So I am a freelance videographer and photographer based in Edinburgh. I am in the typical position of I don't have a niche yet. I kind of do anything and everything. I'm focusing on trying to build kind of a documentative style of brand, I guess. I enjoy most telling stories, meeting people, how they got to where they are, what challenges they face, and really kind of creating things that are actually going to evoke emotion, rather than, again, not to get on people that do this, but like I want to steer away personally from the really fast scrolly, like just get the views and move on to the next thing. I want things to last. It's kind of where I'm at. So create something that sticks.
Almost kind of like timeless to some extent.
Yeah, timeless. I don't, the things that I'm trying to make, I don't want them to be stuck in, that's really 2024.
Right, okay.
Or that's then. You could watch this in 10 years' time and it's still going to give you the same emotion. But now I'm just rambling about what I want to do. But yeah, that's who I am and what I'm doing.
Good stuff. So what's your first kind of memories like around cameras and that sort of thing? Like, is it something you got into when you're younger or just something a bit older? Or?
See, that side of my story is actually a bit because I totally stumbled into this by accident. I've always been into music, so that was kind of where my creative side lies. So my earliest memories of any sort of creativity were within music. So big into music at school in terms of just listening and consuming, but also like playing. So I played a bit of guitar, I played a bit of the drums, played violin when I was younger. I sang quite a lot through different kind of mediums in terms of whether it was like choir stuff or solo stuff. So music was always a really big part. And then I think it got to a point when I was maybe in like my mid-teens. I was like, I'm not really good at anything here. Like I can't really play the guitar very well. I can't really drum very well. So it kind of just faded into the background a wee bit. And I think when it got to kind of later, into my 20s and then early 20s, I knew there was still something I wanted to do creatively, but hadn't really figured it out yet. Yeah. And then I think when I'm trying to get the date right here. I think when I was 25, I was 25. So about 5 or 6 years ago now, bought a camera off Facebook Marketplace that I couldn't afford at the time. Like a 500 quid DSLR with a kit lens. It'd been absolutely bashed about. The grip was coming off. I got like a 16 gig memory card. It was just
photos really loud.
Yeah, just get something to take some photos. Because I was taking photos on my phone and stuff, and I was like, Instagram filters are just not doing it for me anymore. So just started snapping around town, and then I think that's kind of where this whole thing kicked off to just roll into the next piece of the conversation. Like I just started taking photos in town in Edinburgh, and nothing in particular, just things that I saw that I liked, and kind of had a couple of friends at the time who were already like established professional photographers. Yeah. A friend of mine, David, kind of taught me everything I knew up till until I started to learn more on my own. But he really got me off the ground, and he'd been already going for 7 or 8 years as a professional freelancer. So he was as really established within the scene in Edinburgh and throughout the UK actually. And I kind of got to this point where I was like, I can actually take a decent photo. Yeah. Like, and people that are photographers are going, that's a decent photo. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there is something here. Yeah. And I started tagging brands and whatever that I knew I was taking photographs of. So the very, very first job I ever got through photography, I'd taken a photo of this, or of a couple of neon signs or whatever, and I knew the guys that had made them. Yeah. So I just tagged their brand on Instagram. I got a DM the next day. It was like, love your photos. Do you want to do some more for us? Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, is this a paid thing? Like, yeah, we'll throw you some cash. And I was like, right, okay, sweet. Made 100 quid off that. I was like, fucking, this is amazing. This can't be a job. I'm just taking photos. So I think, and then, that was 2018, 2019, the whole thing. I was still working in recruitment at this point. So I was just taking photos at night or, on weekends and stuff. and the jobs didn't come rolling in immediately. It was very like, here's one job that month, maybe a month of nothing, job the next month. Kind of very slowly started snowballing. I went into obviously we all locked down for COVID 2020. Went on furlough and then was made redundant through that year. So kind of was like, what the fuck am I going to do? I'd moved home for COVID. Was in the borders doing nothing, like categorically nothing. I think my stepdad and I we got into this routine Monday through Friday of, he's a farmer, so he was probably up about 6 a.m. But I didn't get out of bed until like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'd go down, make a coffee, sit outside in the sun. The summer that year was ridiculous. So we'd sit outside in the sun, I'd have my breakfast, and then I think midday, bottle of wine was opened.
Straight to it, really.
And just honestly, we did that, and we were cycling a lot, but we did that for months. Moved back to Edinburgh, went back into hospitality. I was a bartender for about 10 years, up until I started doing recruitment. And it was weird, the moment I was back at Edinburgh, the job started picking up again.
Yeah.
So I started getting some more photography stuff and art. People were chatting. I think because everything was online, nobody could go into shops. Yeah. Nobody could really like face-to-face sell whatever they were trying to sell. So everything was online. Everybody needed content. Everybody needed photos and videos for their socials, like within a really quick sort of pace. So things really ramped up at the end of 2020, going into 2021. And I talk about this quite frequently because, the last couple of days, as I was saying to you, come upstairs there, we had the Edinburgh Bar Show, and being ex-bartender myself, I ran into a lot of people I used to work with. So they were like, oh, you're doing this now, this is amazing, how long have you been doing it for? So I've been kind of rattling off their story all week, which is kind of funny. But it was weird. So when I was back in hospitality, the way I like to describe it is the frequency of bar work was here and the frequency of photo work was here. And then over the space of 18 months, that ratio just went like that. So it got to a point in like December 21 where I was doing one bar shift a week, like a 5-10 on a Thursday. And
super quiet shift.
Super quiet shift. The bar manager was like, I'm paying you the most out of all my bartenders because you're the most experienced, but you're useless because you work a 5-10 on a Thursday. It's like, what use to me are you if this is all you can work? So January of the next year, I was like, right, I'm going freelance. It's happening. I'm going to just rely on what I've got and just back myself through this. And that was the start of the freelance journey. That was a very long-winded answer to your question.
Well, it's good. It's in depth. I mean, so you said about 18 months is how long it took to transition kind of between getting a lot of bar work and then getting a lot of freelance work, that sort of thing. So what did that kind of typically look like for you in terms of the balance of that? Did you have maybe when you were first starting out, 4 kind of shifts a week and then maybe stuff on the weekends and then?
Yeah. So within the bar, the bar work element of things, I think I was maybe working at its peak, probably 5 or 6 shifts a week. Yeah. You're talking anything between 40 to 60 hours a week. And then the photo gigs I was doing at that point was pretty much all club work. Yeah. So it was all late shifts. It was whether it was in a bar or whether it was in a club. So, I'd be starting at the earliest, 10 p.m. Yeah. And finishing probably 1:30, 2 in the morning. So I was kind of in that routine for a long time. The bar shifts were late as well. So my body just worked late in the day. So, my body clock was fine with dealing with that. And it kind of got to a point where it was just, okay, you shot for that club, can you shoot for this club? Oh, can you do this bar? So as I say, with that ratio change, it was just a case of people are starting to see the work and go, oh, you can do event stuff, so come do this event. So it kind of all segued into different areas within the same sort of thing. But yeah, I think bringing down the bar shifts kind of really gradually was actually it was really scary within itself, because I was like, okay, I don't have retainers or anything like this at that point. Do I have enough stability to work 4 shifts a week? Mm-hmm. And it was kind of constant conversations with my wife being like, I'm thinking about doing this. Yeah. Do we think this is a good idea?
Is
this a good idea? This is happening, but can I do less of this so I can do more of this? Yeah. And that conversation just continually evolved, and yeah, kind of, as I say, got to that place within the beginning of 22 where I knew there was enough there constantly to go, no, I can step away, and it's gonna allow me to do more.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened.
How did you find like the kind of bar shoots and stuff? Because I remember when I first started, those kind of sort of gigs I used to start getting like initially as well. It was like kind of like say like a club night photography kind of stuff. And like after a while, like I did do them for ages, but I kind of got to the point where I didn't really enjoy them. Like I'm not really an evening person, so like having to then like go home at like 4 or 5 in the morning and then I have to edit the stuff for the next day or like 2 days time, like super quick turnarounds and stuff.
So I think for me, it was interesting. Again, I mentioned David earlier. He was the one that wanted to step away from the bar scene, so kind of allowed me to walk through that door and almost quite easily take over his stuff there. I was just pumped at first because I was like, oh, amazing. I'm doing photography as a job at this point. This is super exciting. I think that novelty wore off in about 2 months. I think it got to the point very quickly where I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to see the same people in the same bar, you know, the same club or whatever it is, and listen to the same music. I'm not drinking. I made like a really conscious choice very early on in doing bar and club stuff to not drink when I was there. Not because the quality was any different. I'd done it a couple of times. I know the quality was something about like 85% as good or whatever, so it was fine. But it was more about I know I'm not going to drink, so I could drive home and do the edits. You know, at that time, more than likely, I maybe had a bar shift in the morning or whatever. So I was like, no, I'll just not drink. But I think the novelty of that wore off pretty quickly. And that's when I kind of started looking at trying to bring other brands in and do different things and do actual photo shoots rather than like event, you know, just capture the moment sort of thing. But yeah, it was an interesting baptism by fire sort of situation.
Death by 1,000 cuts almost.
Yeah, it was. And I think again, because the guys I was working with, they've been working with David for years, so they were used to a very high level. And David had this stuff down to an absolute T. Like he could do it with his eyes shut and a light behind his back kind of thing. You know, he would just go and rattle out an album of 100 like it didn't mean anything to him. So I think it was very much a steep learning curve in terms of, it's a tough environment. I don't know if you've been through to what's now Coco Boho, but Lulu in Edinburgh. On George Street. So very low ceilings. Before it was Coco, it was black ceilings. So trying to bounce a flash was a nightmare.
Just not happening.
Just didn't happen. So you're firing this really intense flash off. And for someone that hadn't been in that environment, well, had been in that club but had shot in that environment, it was tough to get used to. It was a very steep learning curve. I mean, as I say, you just got to, you know, adapt and overcome. And I did eventually, but then very quickly got sick of it. But,
I feel like a lot of people I know in that space, like, I feel like it's like Marmite, you either like it or you don't. Like, you can't force yourself to enjoy it. Like if you do it a couple of times, you don't really feel like it's for you, then you're probably best off doing something else.
I think I know a couple of guys that do a lot within the kind of music and festival scene, because that's like the big brother of club stuff, I think. So when you see guys like Henry McPherson or and now my brain is not telling me the rest of the names on Michael Hunter, the two guys from Glasgow, just the festival stuff they're putting out is obscenely good.
It's like
whether it's festival, whether it's big gigs, like Henry, for instance, was following Ben Hemsley around for his tour. He's now with, oh god, I'm gonna have to remember her name.
Is that Hannah Liang?
Yes, Hannah Liang, exactly. And his stuff's unbelievably good. And he came from that kind of event style background, but has just got his niche absolutely dialed in, and his stuff's stunning. Same with Michael. He does more photography and video rather than just video, whereas, you know, Henry's just doing the video side. And again, it's gorgeous, and I think that is very much the next level up from the club stuff. I know a couple of guys in Edinburgh who are doing the club stuff very well. Again, they're doing more video and photo, so they're working in a hybrid way, but they're kind of starting to scratch into that bigger stuff. They're starting to get into the festivals, they're starting to get into the bigger crowds, the bigger venues. So that's obviously the clear kind of path. I very quickly decided that wasn't for me. Not to poo-hoo that side of the business. It's just not what I'm about. And I think I'm getting too old. I need my bed.
No, that's fair enough. So how did you find the transition of like becoming a freelancer? See, obviously, like you said, like it was a bit of a tug and pull situation of like 4 days a week, but then you don't know if you can.
Yeah, I think I got the best. I got the best kind of deal out of that transition because I was able to be really flexible with the hours of the like actual employment. Whereas I think if other people are going from full-time set employment to freelance, that's a really steep cliff to go off. Yeah, it's a really hard contrast. Whereas because I was able to kind of, you know, manually adjust the levels so that all kind of balanced out quite nicely, I got a really good deal out of that. I never really had to panic too much. I think obviously, of course, there's worries with going freelance. You need to start thinking about your own cash. You know, every month is, can we pay bills?
Yeah.
Is the car going to have fuel in it? Am I going to be able to buy food? Is this a toast and beans month, or is it a steak 7 times a week month? Like, you know, it was a lot. And then I think the real kicker for me was we found out my wife was pregnant in September 21.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm still working the bar shifts at this point. January 2022, I go full-time freelance, and it's like, oh, okay, you're gonna have a kid in 5 months.
Yeah. Let's
start a business. That sounds like a great idea.
Brilliant, yeah.
But yeah, I think that was, and that was just like a real, right, you need to head down, graft, make it happen, make it work. There's not an ulterior option here. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
I think it felt a little bit like fight or flight at that point. It was like, the only option is to make this happen.
Yeah.
So you just got to make it happen. There wasn't room for, you know, laziness or missing deadlines or upsetting clients or whatever, and you just had to do it. So yeah, the transition itself at the time was fine, but yeah, it was. I mean, it's the same as I think all freelancers go through the same thing in some, you know, different version. Everyone's got to just at some point put their foot down and go, I'm gonna make this happen.
I think for me, like, that was a very kind of difficult one for me. I think I was more in the sense that, like, kind of like going full time to then just completely nothing.
Just cut it off and
just
go.
Completely, And I do think I kind of personally jumped the gun a bit, but like you said, it kind of forced me to kind of be like, right, I'm in this now. So you see, I can go get another job. I just figure it out.
Yeah.
So I obviously chose a latter, and here we are. But I think it's a very, very difficult transition to make. But 100%. I think when you do make that transition, more often than not, people they'll figure it out as they kind of go along, and jobs will start to trickle in, and even certain seasons, like a lot more jobs, you can like find your feet, kind of like, okay, meet new clients, meet you this and that, and that sort of thing. So
I think as well within that conversation, I think if you've got the right mindset for it, obviously doing the physical work is really important, and making sure the physical work is coming in is really important. Mm-hmm. But you've got to really focus on, continually improving your skill set.
Yeah.
So I think one of my big advantages over that kind of transition period and the kind of, I guess, the 18 months that followed that was I focused really hard on editing and making my look good.
Yeah.
And finding new ways and better ways to do things and quicker ways and more efficient ways to push work out. I started working with a guy called Fergus Crawley, who is he's a Gymshark athlete and triathlete. He's a big YouTuber now. I think he must have hit 100k subs now.
Yeah.
But what I was doing all his YouTube content.
Yeah.
So when I started working with him, he wanted a YouTube video every Sunday. Go.
Yeah.
So it was film at least once a week. Put out a video every Sunday night. And the intensity of that was massive.
Yeah.
Because, I still had to do everybody else's, all the other clients I had.
Fit in somewhere.
Yeah, this was the first media guy he brought in to do this for him. He'd been doing it himself up until now and thought, right, okay, now I have a small budget to bring somebody in and help me produce these.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much you know about kind of triathlons and that sort of thing, but their training's horrible.
It's really brutal.
It's so antisocial. So and he's trying to run a business and run two businesses full time during a single day. So you're trying to lift weights, you're trying to run, you're trying to swim, you're trying to cycle and lift weights again and probably run again.
And then film all that
and then run two businesses over the course of a 7-day week. So trying to keep up with that amongst doing my own stuff was intense. But again, going back to that learning curve element, that was a huge, and that was all video, obviously.
Yeah.
Doing bits of photography for his socials and stuff, but the video was the most important. But that for me was a real upward tick in terms of creative license and ability, because I had to really quickly had to learn how to do this really dynamic style of YouTube video shooting.
Yeah.
So again, talking about upskilling, that was like a big help in getting me from where I was at that point to, well, not where I am now, but where I was maybe a year ago.
Yeah. I think YouTube is definitely a different ballpark. Like I think the first few YouTube videos I did, I was like, whoa, okay, like it's very different to how you approach like social media content to some extent, because it's like obviously it's longer, so I kind of know that, but even just like there's general things that, like, for example, like the first 10 seconds need to be really heavily edited. There's like a few even like overlays and this and that. A lot more sound design and stuff, I feel like, as well, because it's like, for example, triathlon, like you'd be doing stuff like there's a lot of action and pace that needs to go into that 100%. Video, as opposed to
you need to hook people. As you say, the first 10 seconds needs to be super intense, super high intensity, show like the best parts of what you're about to see, so people are like, oh fuck yeah, I'm gonna sit and watch that. This is a 20-minute film, I'm gonna sit and watch this. I mean, the biggest couple of pieces we did with him, there's two of them that probably stick out the most. There's an extreme triathlon up in the Highlands called the Keltman. Starts near Loch Torridon, and basically that is open water swim through salt water. It was freshwater, saltwater, I'm not sure, I can't remember. But it starts at 5 a.m. in the morning. They swim, I think it's something like 4 or 5 miles through open water. I know that there's eels and jellyfish in that water, so you're full lycra wetsuit up. Then it's something like 160k cycle, and then a marathon. So it's intense, but like shooting all that, we thought, right, I've got a half an hour film off of this to show the stages and show what's going on and his emotions and everything through that. So I was like, right, we're going to make a teaser, because this is massive. This is a huge deal. This was actually, he did it twice, because he didn't manage to complete it how he wanted to the first time around. So he went back a year later, and obviously he hit his target that time. But we made like a 2.5 minute teaser the week after, and then the full film came out the week after that. But I mean, again, going back to the volume of editing, we were, I was running 4 cameras at this point. I had 4 Sony A7 IIIs. I had 150-400 lens. I had a wide, I had a mid, and I had a bigger mid, and a GoPro and a drone to deal with. So you're talking essentially 6 cards full of footage to go through and rinse. And within a week, had to pull out a 2.5 minute trailer, and then a week later, had to do the full film. I think the full film ended up at something like 500k views. Something awesome. And then the second event was called the Double Brutal, just to make it sound not intimidating at all. So this was down in Snowdon in Wales. Similar idea, open water swim, but it was double everything. So it was a 10k swim, 360k bike, and then 2 marathons. It took 41 hours. I was awake for 44.5 hours filming the whole thing. It was a 48-minute film we made. It's unbelievable. I think that's something like 750, 800k views now on YouTube. So yeah, that was intense. I don't know how I got into this tangent. Something about an uptick in skill set. But yeah.
We'll take it back a bit. So you mentioned that you found out your wife was pregnant.
Yes.
So how have you found the balance of being like a husband and a father, also trying to run like business at the same time? Do you find like it's a bit of a tricky one, or is it fairly straightforward?
I think she'd probably kill me if I wasn't honest. So it's tough. Trying to balance kids, wife, business, my own friends, my own downtime. Trying to give all of those enough is very difficult. I think I'm in a position right now where I'm trying to give as much as I can to work, wife, and family. I see my friends like once a month. And again, it's purely because the energy levels, I can't split it better. But yeah, it's tough. I think I struggled at the start because I think when Finn, so my wee boy's called Finn, he's 2 in May. When he came, I think many dads will relate to this. Or there's dads watching. You don't really know what you've got at that point.
Yeah.
And especially as a freelancer, I was like, everything rides on me money-wise. My wife's on mat leave. The maternity pay she was getting wasn't great. So it was very heavy. Like, you need to work and provide to make sure that we can continue and that you can continue doing this. But at the same time, you need to be incredibly present. You need to make sure you're getting up for the late night feeds. You need to make sure that you're providing this, that, and the other. And I'm not trying to spin some sort of woe is me story, but that's the reality. And you know, people that have been through it will know that. But I know, looking back, I could have been better at that kind of dad and husband piece. Like it was tough. I knew, you know, I was pretty tunnel visioned on the whole work thing, just to make sure that the bills were paid and there was money in the bank. I'm far better at it now. I've got myself into a very good kind of cadence of when I'm home, I don't work. I've moved my office out of the house now, so when I leave the office, I can leave work.
Yeah, it just stays behind, really.
Yeah, I used to use the spare bedroom in the house as an office, and it became really obvious that if I was home, whether it was night or during the day or whatever, and if there's anybody in the house, it was a two-pronged negative. It was, if they're in the house, I'll get easily distracted. And if I'm not being easily distracted, I'm then taking myself away from being present with family. So it was like, no, take it out of the house and leave work at work. Yeah. So, you know, now I don't really tend to have the urge to, but now I certainly don't have the ability to just jump on and make a quick edit. If I want to, like 7 at night on a Friday, I was like, no, you're home. Stay home. Just relax. Take it easy. Just switch off. I think to go round back and re-answer the question, very hard at first, got better at it, figured out how to do it properly. Yeah. Because I think even like, I'm not a father or a husband. Even I feel like I struggle a lot with like trying to find the balance between seeing my friends, like spending time with my partner, and just all the things that you kind of typically have to do in your day to day. Like I feel like you said, even me, I don't see my friends maybe as much as I'd like. And I think it's just because you're so laser focused on, like you said, like trying to make ends meet because you're freelancers at the end of the day. Like it's a funny one. I don't think that, and again, I'm not trying to diss anybody in full-time employment because having a sort of steady salary at this point in time feels like a dream. But I think there's a misunderstanding or like a miscommunication where people don't really see how much work happens in the background. Yeah, 100%, they don't. You know, like they don't see your workings in the margins. Yeah, they see the results, and that's all the stuff you post on socials, or you know, you tell them you're working with X, and then they post whatever it is. But they don't see how much stuff you need to do in the background. Some do. You know, some of my closest friends, they know how hard that people like me and you work. I've been in discussions and they've said, this is how much time you have to allocate to this, and it's like, yeah, you've seen the album of photos, or you've seen the film come out, but you didn't see the 3 days I was locked in the office editing all that, trying to get all sorted. Yeah, it's like, oh, I can't come for beers because I'm been locked in here. I need to get this done. This thing in, so. 100%. So yeah, I think it's just a balancing act. And again, I certainly haven't got it nailed. But it's just a case of, my wife does a very good job of reminding me that I need to organise with my friends. Yeah. You know, she'll speak to me maybe once or twice a month and say, look, are you doing anything with your pals? Should you go for a pint with so-and-so? Should you do that? Just to go and do it. Because she does it really well. You know, she works really hard, but still, she's got a good number of friends, a good little unit of friends that are close as well. So I'm like close within proximity. So it's very easy for them to just quickly hang out and grab a glass of wine or whatever. Whereas I'm just not as good at that. Yeah. Because my energy ends up being elsewhere. So yeah. I think me and my friends are good in that sense that like we have dedicated time. So for example, like on a Monday, we'll all just get together. It's just like our routine. Yeah. Like on a Monday, we just set that time so that we all can like every Monday we know that we can all hang out and just just chill and like enjoy each other's company and stuff. Because like you said, I think if it wasn't for that, I genuinely don't think we'd see each other often. Yeah, 100%. We'd just be. I think it's a hermit. I think it's like a very guy thing to do as well. Just kind of like
you see your friends when you see them, kind of
100%.
thing. So
I think, and I'm not going to start slinging gender stereotypes around here, but I do think women are better at catching up with their pals. I think that is just a fact.
Yeah.
I think men need other men to push them to do it.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of pals from home, from the borders, that we're all in different places now. Like one's still in the borders, one's in Glasgow here. I'm in Edinburgh. A couple of them are actually in Australia just now, so we obviously can't go for a beer with them. But we've got a group chat, and it's kind of, something will pop up every so often. Maybe it's once a week, every other week, whatever. And it takes one of us to say, right, I've got a date free in like 6 weeks.
Let's actually get on it.
Do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we managed to get around to it eventually, but yeah, it is a constant struggle.
100%. So slightly off tangent. So
talk to me.
So I remember me reaching out to you in the first place was because you posted on your story. No, you posted on your feed talking about how there's a bit of a disconnect between the content that you're posting and how you feel about it.
Yeah.
So do you want to quickly talk about like what inspired you to kind of make that post, and like what were you kind of going through at that time?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a weird one. I kind of got myself into this situation where I was pumping out a lot of work, and as you know, doing what we do, our best way to advertise how well and how good we are at what we do is to post our stuff online.
Yeah.
And I kind of got myself into this situation where I was like, I don't want to post any of this.
Yeah.
So how am I going to get new work if I can't post anything? And it was just like, boxed off. I felt like I was in this like room with no doors. I was like, I feel really locked in here because I can't. I'm locked in a negative way, not a good way. It's like I can't do anything because I'm not getting the work that I want because I can't post the stuff to get the work I want.
Yeah.
So it was this weird kind of juxtaposition situation, and I think quite a few people reached out and were like, "Oh man, you okay?" All this. And I was like, "No, I'm not depressed. I'm not sad. I'm just getting a bit pissed off with where I'm at." And I think it was bizarre. There was a couple of projects that had no correlation to that video that I posted, popped up within days of that.
Yeah.
I was like, "Man, fucking yes,
Fair
let's
enough,
go,
yeah.
amazing, let's go. This is stuff that I want to do, and this is stuff that I want to see, and I'm happy to post this." But I think it was just there was a bit of a mindset shift for me as well, because I think the content that I'm talking about that I didn't want to post, I was realizing after the fact that I hadn't really put enough creative energy into them.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, looking at this isn't my best work, and that's not entirely on the client or the setting. That's got to be on me as well. So let's maybe take a look at how we're approaching projects, how we're approaching shoots, and just bring more to the table.
Yeah.
So have a bit more of a thought in terms of story, in terms of framing, in terms of dynamics. How are you gonna make this really exciting?
Yeah.
How am I gonna take this shoot that I have in front of me for this product or this person or whatever it is, and make it something that I'm proud of?
Yeah.
So adopting that mindset going into a shoot helped.
Yeah.
So as I say, when those projects came in within the week of posting that, I was like, fuck, this is the energy I needed, and now I can attack these with a far better headspace than I'm just coming out of now. So yeah, it was a weird little minute I had to myself, but yeah, I think everybody will go through the same thing. I think it's just a case of trying to make sure that when you have the ability to create something, be it photography, be it videography, be it whatever you're doing, we are creative people.
Yeah.
So be creative. Take your A game to everything, because you do not know what door is behind that bill. You get this one thing that maybe is 50% of what you want to do, or is just not that exciting, but make it cool, make it something you're proud of, be creative with it, and you don't know what's going to be behind that, because everything you post is an opportunity for a new client.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't all come down to money. Got to be happy at the end of the day, but money makes the world go round.
Yeah.
So,
and especially what we do, kind of need it. So
can I need it? These fancy cameras don't cost. Can't pay for them in exposure. So
I think my problem with Instagram, I think these days it just feels, or just even just content in general on social media, it just feels like you're almost doing a performance to some extent. And I feel like I found myself, even with my latest content, almost kind of adhering to that performance. Not necessarily because I want to per se, but because it's like, it's the only way I can really, like you said, post stuff that is like going to be appealing to maybe like my client base, the people, sort of people that I want to work with and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like, as much as I'd love to post like X piece of like the content or X thing and make a really cool edit, same time I post that, and then it's like, now I have to start thinking about algorithms and captions and SEO and something about like the audio they're using and all that sort of stuff. So it ends up being a bit of like, I don't feel like you can consistently put out stuff that you want to put out all the time. I think there's going to be a time where you're going to have to do a bit of a dance with the algorithm to see, okay, how are you going to make that work and stuff?
Being totally honest with you, you are right.
Yeah.
Being totally honest with you, I have taken the executive decision with myself to say the algorithm.
Yeah.
If I'm proud of something, I'm going to put it out, because art is, and this is so meta, but art is completely subjective. You don't know who's going to see your stuff that's going to like it.
100%, yeah.
I'm not trying to adhere to trends of algorithm. I do not give a fuck if it's a trend in audio or not.
Yeah.
I threw up fucking Outcast tune on my last post, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. It's not trending. I don't care. It's a banger. It's a great song. Like, you know, I'm there's a couple of things. I think that video that I posted, so we were just talking about, that had a trending audio on it.
Yeah.
But I used it because it fit. Like, I used it.
It made sense.
I used it because it worked. I actually saw, bizarrely, I saw someone else use that audio. It reminded me of the space I was in, and then I used it for the video. So it wasn't like, oh, I made the video and then found it. That video was created off of hearing that piece of dialogue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think in terms of trends and algorithms and stuff, headbutting the mic, I post what I want to post.
Yeah.
And my game isn't, curate an Instagram following.
Yeah.
My game is for people to appreciate what I do for what I do.
Yeah.
Not because I've got 20k followers on Instagram and I'm getting hundreds of thousands of views in a reel because I'm doing crazy shit with it that everybody's doing and using trending sounds and all that. It's not what I'm about. I don't follow that game. And again, I'm not going to on people that do because, like, that's fine. And I mean, I've seen a lot of your recent stuff and it bangs.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't look at you and say, he's following trends, he's doing this, that, and the other, he's trying to follow the algorithm for SEO, etc. I wouldn't look at your stuff and say that.
Yeah.
I'd say he's putting out that looks cool and that he likes and he's proud of. So I guess there's a very fine line you could walk.
Yeah,
which you seem to be doing pretty well. Of like, this is my style, and this is cool, but it also kind of works kind of works into the algorithm because it's still sort of on trend, but almost by mistake.
Yeah. I think that's kind of why I want to almost stop posting to Instagram as much and start focusing on YouTube. Yeah. So I feel like YouTube is a better platform for what you're saying in the sense that like you're more likely to just say, look, this is what I'm doing on YouTube. Like I could literally say, right, today, make a vlog of like us doing this, for example. Yeah. And I can just post that and that's the end of that. Yeah. I don't really, it shows algorithms and all that sort of stuff on YouTube as well, but I don't think the pressure is the same as on Instagram where it's like to make
it's totally
super
different.
viral.
I think with YouTube, again, having worked in the YouTube space for, I think it was about a year and a half I was working with Fergus, and kind of got to know what works and what doesn't on YouTube from his audience anyway. YouTube's, from what I can gather, main algorithm in terms of views and people seeing you is authenticity. You make your YouTube videos fake and plastic and super, super positive and motivated or whatever, people see right through that. It's got to be real. It's got to be stories. It's got to be authentic. You got to be able to relate to the people you're talking to. Yeah. That is how I've seen YouTube, like, people succeed. Unless you're in that kind of, I mean, for me, I'm talking quite niched here because the YouTube guys I follow are, your typical Peter McKinnon, Mari Hipoya, yada, yada, yada. So they're doing tech reviews and stuff. So unless you're in that niche, like, obviously just do in-depth reviews and make them look good. But if you're like a YouTuber and you're telling stories and vlogging and that sort of stuff, be authentic. Like, the absolute king of that is obviously still Casey Neistat, and his stuff was never mad flashy.
Yeah.
It was never crazy transitions. He had cameras for like a long time.
Even when he had the money to even
when he had the money, he was still, it was a T6 Rebel 2 or whatever the hell it's called in America. It's like a 550D. This thing was a heap of shit. It's a crap camera.
£200 banger almost.
Yeah, it was absolute crap camera. It was the first camera. It was the same first camera I bought. And look at the YouTube following he created.
Yeah.
Like, it was all about story. It was all about saying something. It was all about leaving an afterthought. It was all about being authentic. It wasn't about being this mad, upbeat, fake persona.
Yeah.
So yeah, YouTube is just, you gotta be real, man.
Do you reckon you'd ever dive into YouTube for that?
I'd love to. Yeah. I did a wee bit when during lockdown. I started doing some vlogs, just because I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to. We actually, the Edinburgh Bar Show I was talking to you about before, we actually, the guy I was shooting with kind of in tandem through Monday through Wednesday, we like vlogged a wee bit.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Like, I find it quite easy to talk to camera. So yeah, it's fun. I've got no qualms holding up a big thing with a big shotgun mic on top. I've got no qualms with that. So yeah, it was good fun. So I'll try and get that edited and put up next week, I think, which would be cool.
Good stuff. I feel like you're one of the people I've actually heard say you don't mind talking to a camera.
No, yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, it's not a case of love the way I look or love the sound of my own voice or anything like that. I do sound good though. But no, I don't know. I think it's I've watched enough guys do it,
right? Where
I'm just like, you just gotta go,
yeah,
and you can't be worried about how people are going to perceive you or hear you. Or that's not the reason you're doing this. Yeah. You're not doing it so that people think you're cool or that people think you look good or sound good or whatever it is. You're doing it, whether it's a self-indulgence piece or whether you're doing it just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah,
hold on to that reason, you know. So yeah, I think again, kind of coming up through school, I was very into like the music and drama things. I did a lot of like stage shows at school.
Yeah.
So in terms of performing in front of an audience, I did that for like 4 or 5 years straight when I was a kid. So like I don't really have an issue getting up in front of people.
Yeah.
I think one of the main things that I can like hold on to as like a characteristic or like a strength of mine is you could put me in a room of 100 strangers and I'll come out with 100 friends. Like I can talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah.
Have no issues with that. So again, talking to a camera is just talking to whoever ends up being on the end of it. So
touching on that point actually, so do you feel like that sort of almost openness to talk to people and just kind of like extrovert / thing, I guess, do you feel like that's helped you land clients? Because I know some people who a lot of them speak to the fact that like a lot of the clients they've landed, I mean, people that they've just had a conversation with and they really hit it off to the point where just be like, oh, so you actually do this as well. We're actually looking for someone regardless. And the person just kind of hit off.
I think it's there's a couple of things it depends on. I think the first and most important thing is if you're approaching clients, you got to very quickly determine what level they're on.
Yeah.
So I think it's knowing, talking a bit more specifically, it's about knowing their business, knowing their character.
Right.
So whether it's a business or whether it's an individual, you got to figure out what their tone is. If they're a really big, loud, exciting brand, then go in with that energy.
Right.
If they're quite chill and kind of mellow, then approach them like that. You know, to put two really contrasting clients on the table, I was dealing with a psychology unit here in Glasgow a couple of months back through a friend of mine, Daniel Freitag, who owns Freitag Anderson Design Agency. And when I first had conversations with Fraser, he was very chilled, very like mellow. You know, it was quite easy to talk to him because I kind of came down to his level. I didn't need to be big and exciting and fucking massive and this is going to be fucking epic. It's not the energy that was required. Whereas I did a shoot with a running club in Lululemon on the weekend, and Lululemon's a massive worldwide activewear company, and the running club guys I've known for about a year now, and they were like, it's energy.
Yeah.
So I went into that conversation with energy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a case of bringing yourself to the kind of tone of the client you're approaching. The second piece is you just got to have confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
If you are going to go and approach clients for business, back yourself. If you know you're good at what you do, then show that you're good at what you do. You know, don't stuff it down their face. But
Yeah.
I mean, unless they want that. But, you know, bring ideas, bring proof that you can deliver.
Yeah.
Have a look at their socials, have a look at their website, see what stuff they're putting out, find their style. If you need to go out for a day or a night and curate some stuff that looks like that,
Yeah.
then do that. You know, if I was going to approach, you know, another running brand or whatever, I would go and get more running stuff. I'd get a runner I know, I'd go out for a shoot, I'd do an afternoon or an evening photo shoot with them, and I'd get some content, and the editing and the curation of that would be to fit the brand I'm about to go and approach.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a case of backing yourself and backing your ability before you have that conversation. If you go in kind of, oh yeah, I'm a photographer and I'm kind of good at this and I can kind of do that, and oh yeah, I've done a bit. Like you're fucked. Like
Yeah,
that's,
you
you're
can't
not
take it
going to get
seriously.
anywhere. So you got to back yourself. And it's, again, I'm lucky that I'm quite confident. Yeah, like that helps. And I'm not like a big cocky arsehole, but I just don't really give a.
Yeah.
So I know I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
So I can put myself in front of people and say, I can deliver this, I can deliver that. It's going to be high quality. This is your solution.
You've got the conviction in you to be
Yeah.
able to say, you know.
Yeah. And then you just got to deliver.
Yeah.
So obviously you put the pressure on yourself, but yeah, I think in terms of approaching clients, it's finding the tone and then back yourself through the conversation with proof that you can deliver.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So you touched briefly on like you want to move more on kind of docu-series kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what sort of stuff are you kind of looking to do the next like year or two? Like
So I think over the last, April. So I think over the last 8 months, in terms of content I've been consuming has been a lot of, and you'll see it yourself, especially Instagram has switched over to this kind of, it was, first off, it was really Wes Anderson style.
yeah.
And then it kind of did its own thing and is now this cinematic thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's just doing locked off shots. Everyone's doing lovely coloring. You know, everyone's doing yellow subtitles. Like it's a whole thing. But that kind of started, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like this more cinematic. I hate that word, but cinematic style of shooting. Because at that point, I was just shooting anything and everything, and didn't really have much of a focus in terms of how I wanted my stuff to look.
Right.
Whereas when I started consuming that, I started finding people that were creating that sort of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's like the best short films and the best, you know, pieces of documentary that you aren't finding on Netflix. I think the caveat to that is I'm looking for stuff that's low budget.
Yeah.
So that I can be like, okay, I can relate to that. I can
yeah.
create that set. I can shoot that. I can't go and watch a Netflix documentary because and try and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the documentary stuff, I think about 8 or 9 months ago, I started consuming a lot of kind of content that was this kind of cinematic way. It kind of started off in this kind of Wes Anderson style stuff. Everything was locked off. Everything was kind of really warm colors, kind of pastel-y, the way that Wes does his editing and whatever. And that kind of Instagram took that and ran with it and started making these like cinematic reels. So that was like what the kind of algorithm was punting at me at the time. And again, it was locked off shots, beautiful visuals, beautiful coloring. And I think it became a trend very quickly. But I think what people didn't realize, there was actually a lot of work involved in doing that sort of stuff. So I kind of took that and went, right, I'm going to go onto YouTube and start finding this kind of cinematic documentary stuff. And I started following a guy called Mark Bone, who runs a company called The Art of Documentary, with a guy called Michael Del Monte. And they have been independent filmmakers for, I reckon, 10, 15 years probably. And what they're doing is small budget small crews, like 2-3 guys at a time, maybe a sound guy if they can afford the budget at the time. Not to say that they haven't got much money, these guys are loaded. But in terms of the style of filmmaking, it's a lot of handheld stuff. It's a lot of getting really in amongst the kind of nitty gritty. What's the story about? Who's my character? What's their motivation? And what's their outcome?
Yeah.
So I started learning more about storytelling and what makes a good story. And I kind of got into this real rabbit hole about it. And when I came out the other side, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. This is like, I was kind of midway through, or I'm not midway through, I'm almost at the end, but I started filming a film, started making a film for a whiskey company, a blended whiskey company called Woven Whiskey through in Edinburgh. And they're really trying to reshape what blended whiskey is to the world. But they didn't have like a brand story that was easily consumable. So we started filming with them back in March last year. And I only finished filming with them in December last year. And, you know, I had hours worth of interviews, hours worth of visuals, and that in itself was a steep learning curve. So it was kind of by chance that I stumbled into this, into Mark Bone later in the year in terms of the style. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
A one-man show. I'm recording audio. I'm, making the videos. I'm editing all by myself. This is exactly what I want to be doing, and telling stories and finding out what has driven people to achieve what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just became kind of the goalpost. I think you asked me what was I wanting to do in the next kind of couple of years with that. I have written a short film. I haven't filmed any of it yet because I haven't had time. But I have written a short film. I will tell you what it's called because why not? I'm not Netflix. It's going to be called Run Out from the Dark, and it is going to be based on two characters, Ollie and Lizzie, and they're both runners, not ultra endurance world champions, they're just runners. They enjoy running, and the theme of the film is going to be how they use running to help stabilize their lives. They've both been through some pretty heavy hitting kind of trauma and issues in their life, and they've used running as a tool to balance their mental health and kind of find, to kind of recenter themselves and find themselves through that. And they use running as that tool. And I'm basically going to make a film about that, and I've got interviews set up with them. I've written scripts. I've basically seen the whole thing out. I've mood boarded and whatever. It's ready to pull the trigger. I just need to find the time to do it.
Yeah.
But that will be my first self-written, directed, shot, edited piece, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, that's once I get that out, when I see how that process goes, and when I deliver it, I think that'll be the real right. Is this the right thing? I mean, right now I think it is, because I got even just out writing the scripts and boarding this whole thing out, like storyboarding the whole thing, was so exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be what I try and do moving forward. It doesn't pay well because I'm paying myself at this point. But yeah, I think it's going to be a thing I can use. One, I think what I'll do from it is take clips and send them to, and make little bits and send them to different clients to kind of show this is the kind of stuff I can do, given the creative freedom to do it. Does this interest you? But it's also going to be a jumping off point to do more in that sort of space.
Good stuff. So kind of, I guess, just one question I was trying to ask before wrapping up is like, let's say someone wants to seize your stuff and they think, I'd like to be kind of like in his shoes one day. What's like some advice you'd give to someone like looking to aspire to be, like, let's say where you are now, for example?
So again, I'm not going to jump and presume that I'm the be all and end all, because I have got a long way to go still, for sure. If you want to get into this sort of creative space, whether it be photography, whether it be videography, whether it be design, whether it be anything that relies on you as an individual to create and make something, learn, and do not stop learning. There is not a day that I'm not watching some tutorial on something.
Yeah.
On, every day can be a school day and should be a school day, because there is always more you can learn. It's not one of these things where you can ever get to a point where you know everything.
Yeah.
You might know enough for that job to do a job confidently, but there's always more, and it will always benefit you. So that's number one. Do not stop learning. Number two, I think going back to an earlier part of our conversation, there has to be a bit of an air of confidence. You kind of need to back yourself. I know when I started this and I started posting photos and stuff online under the guise of being a photographer.
Yeah.
I remember my mum even going, what are you doing with that? You're not a photographer.
Yeah, you're almost like saying something that's you're not quite.
Yeah, it's like, why are you pretending to be a photographer? Yeah. That's not you. But I think you just need to run with it. If you want to get into this space, then there are so many doors open.
Yeah.
No one is telling you can't do this. In reality, someone might be telling you, but really you can do whatever you want. You just got to back yourself and run at it. I know there's life gets in the way and there's many hurdles put in front of you these days in all shapes and forms. But if you have a passion to do something, grab it with both hands and run at it, because the reward of making something that you are proud of with your own two hands, whether it be with a camera in those hands or not, or whatever it might be, that payoff is worth every piece, every single thing. And it doesn't matter if it gets 1 million likes or one. If you are proud of it, then you have achieved your goal at that point.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add? I don't think so. Yeah, that's it.
That's you.
Yeah, just back yourself. There's no. I think I remember having a conversation with someone recently where they were kind of suggesting that in Edinburgh specifically, the kind of photographer and videographer market was saturated.
Yeah.
And I had someone else out with that conversation had spoken about, his toes being stepped on by the people with jobs and stuff. The people who were trying to get into his clients or whatever. There is jobs everywhere. Just go and find them. Yeah. Like everybody, again, talking specifically about myself in terms of photography and videography, there is work everywhere. Everywhere, every company, every business, every prolific figure needs media of some sort. Yeah. So, yes, I'm not saying that it's like taking apples off a tree, but like you will find it. Just work, reach out, just keep plugging away, and it will happen. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say I'm the finished article, but that's what I did. Yeah. I just started reaching out to people. I sent 1 million emails. I sent 1 million messages on Instagram and got phone numbers that I shouldn't have got, and just messaged and emailed and just poked people until they responded. Yeah. Like I went through a round of that about 2 or 3 months ago. I went through a round of just hitting up all the people I hit up like a year ago. Yeah. I was like, you didn't reply to my message. However, I'm still here. Do you want to do this? This is my latest show reel. And I think half of them came back to me. Yeah. And that like 50% hit rate is way better than the 0% hit rate from last year.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So, it's just, it's one of these things where no one's going to hold your hand. You just got to push and push and push. And it's not easy, but the reward is great.
Yeah. And I think I was actually thinking about this a lot lately, that like, I think it's easy, like we spoke about this slightly earlier in the conversation, but it's easy to see the fruit of a freelancer's labor, or just anyone who does something that's like slightly entrepreneurial, that sort of thing, who's got a bit of success for them. It's easy to see the stuff that they're doing and think, oh, that's nice and that's cool and that sort of stuff, but you don't see how much work goes into the back end. 100%. And I think I don't like to, when people ask me like, oh, like for advice and stuff, I don't like to sell this whole idea of like this lavish, cool entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, it's hard work. It's gonna take hard work. It's gonna take like proper serious grit for you to get it. But at the same time, though, you will never regret it. 100%. I don't know a single person who's gone down this path and like made something out of it for themselves and regret it. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
So
I think again, it's important to. It took me a while to learn this. I think I really only recently learning this. I say recently, within the last year or whatever. The people that we look at and aspire to be like, or have their lives, or make the stuff that they make, or whatever. I could put any amount of money on that they've been doing it for 7, 8, 9, 10 years plus.
Yeah. And
now they're only here. If you think about, I've been doing this only full time now, like full time freelance for 2 years, and I'm doing okay. I can provide for my family. I've got a car, I can buy a nice camera when I need to.
Yeah.
But I'm not balling. And we still live, reasonably month to month. We do what we can. We go out for dinner when we can. But it takes time. You will not have immediate results. I mean, some one-trick pony somewhere might, but the reality is you're not going to buy a camera within 6 months, be making $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
That is not going to, unless you are
like God's gift to the
planet and insanely lucky, some sort of nepo baby photographer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't happen like that.
100%. But yeah, I think that'd be a good place to kind of wrap up. I feel like we've spoken quite a lot about a few different bits. Is there anywhere that people can kind of see you, like your socials and that sort of stuff?
So Instagram, I am ralia.media. Ralia is RAL. Oh God, let's try that again. Instagram, I am Ralia Media, which is RALIA.media. And because I haven't got my website sorted yet, that is it. Based in Edinburgh, and if you want to work, hit me up.
Good to go. Oh, wow, English, man. Well, good stuff, man. So yes, I think we'll just kind of wrap up, and thank you for coming on the podcast.
Welcome.
It's good having a conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
For sure. And we'll catch you hopefully soon.
Nice one.